I feel like this has been one of my most requested videos in this series. Today we are going to be doing my eyeshadow palette collection. It is quite large, so definitely grab a snack. I'm going to be sharing with you each one of the eyeshadow palettes that I have in my collection, minus my ColourPop. That will be in a separate video, but don't worry, I've got a lot of eyeshadow palettes to share with you, so let's go ahead and get started. So we're just going to start on this side. We'll work our way down. I'm not going to talk too much on the palettes just because I do have so many. So first up, this is the Daydream Palette from Alter Ego. Next up in my collection, I have this one from Patrick Ta. This is the Major Dimension palette. I love this one. The next palette that I have is the Glam Goddess palette from Dalton Beauty. They actually named a shade after me. The shade right here is the shade Molly in the palette, so really cool. I love this one from them. This palette up next is from Too Faced. This has made it declutter after declutter, I swear, just for the packaging. It's so beautiful. This is the All Natural palette, or the Natural Eyes palette from Too Faced. Go into my Natasha palettes. I really don't have that many. I do love this palette though. It's one of my favorites in my collection. This is the Glam palette from her. Definitely one of my most used eyeshadow palettes. I also purchased the Retro palette last year. This is one I feel like I just kind of fell into the hype a little bit with. I don't particularly love this color story. It's not one that I reach for a bunch, but it's a nice palette. The formula is nice. It's just not one I'm using a ton. And then this is the only like full-size palette that I have from her. This is the Lila palette. And if you haven't seen that one, here is what that looks like. So that's everything for this first divider. All of these clear acrylic things are from Amazon. I will link them all down below, as well as my Amazon storefront where I have a lot of my organization things for my makeup. So these are great just for holding palettes. So behind here I just have this little tiny thing that just has a few of my smaller eyeshadow palettes. So this first one is from Blessed Beauty, and you can actually just pull these off, and there are quite a few different shadows in there. It's a cute little concept. And kind of similar to that, I have these stacks from Kaja. I'm realizing these are the same exact stack. I don't know how I ended up with two of those, but this is the Chocolate Dahlia stack, and it's similar where you can just kind of like pull them up, and there are different eyeshadows on the inside. And then back here behind, I just keep some of my larger palettes. These are just from Morphe. I do have the Jaclyn Hill Volume 2 palette. This one I actually like. I like the color story. I think it's a fun palette. Then we have our original Jaclyn Hill palette. Mine is so used and abused, but I will save this forever because I love it. And we also have the 35XO. This is a really nice palette, especially for like bridal makeup. I think it would be really pretty for that. We're going to move into the next row. Again, just one of those same clear acrylic organizers. I've saved this palette forever. I know Becca's not available anymore, but I just think the packaging is so beautiful on this. I think it's so special. So I have this one. It actually just opens up on the inside like this. You can use it as an eyeshadow palette or as a cheek palette. These are the Morphe Jaclyn Hill Vault Collection. I only saved two of the palettes, the one that I use the most, but this is Bling Boss. This is like a purple palette, and then I also have the Armed and Gorgeous. I love this green shade in here. Also, the shade Coin is beautiful. This palette I have back here is the Kaleidos Flower Punk palette. This one is so fun. I love this color story. I love these like green blues. I think they're so pretty. I like that it has the removable mirror. I love the packaging as well. I do have a Florence by Mills palette. This is the Love Live. She doesn't have my favorite like eyeshadow formula. It's not the one that I reach for a ton, but I do like to keep them in my collection because I use them a lot in like videos. They do a lot of like Florence dedicated videos. This palette from Wonder Beauty I've talked about a lot. This is the Wonderless Escapes palette. I think it's stunning. It's really great quality as well. I have a couple here from Alamar Cosmetics. So I have the, I think this one was just the Reina del Carbi palette. I can never pronounce these right. And then I also have the Spanglish palette. So here is the first one. I think I got this in like a BoxyCharm, but it's so pretty. And then here's the second one. They have a really great formula. I'm not sure how this one isn't with the other one, but this is another Florence palette, and here's what that one looks like. It has some neutrals and then also some pastels, and it's kind of cool because you can like remove the different parts of it if you wanted to just like take one of the little pastels with you. I do have this palette from Wet n Wild. They haven't done one of these in a while, but this is the WNW palette. They were kind of making these for a minute, but I feel like they kind of stopped, but it's a cool color story. You guys will see all of my Urban Decay stuff in a second, but I do have this one just back here because it didn't fit with the rest of the palettes, but this is the Beached eyeshadow palette. I loved this when it came out, you guys. I haven't used it in a while, but this was like my tones. I love blues. I love like browns. It's so pretty. I love the packaging. It's just such a cute eyeshadow palette. This is actually a really great drugstore option from e.l.f. This is the Earth and Ocean palette. From Juvia's Place, I have the Dulce palette right here. I love that green shade in here. From Nomad, I do have their Tokyo palette. This is a really cool pastel palette. From Revolution Beauty, this one is their Forever Flawless palette. I think these tin palettes from them are much better quality than, in my opinion, than some of their other palettes. This is from Pixie. It's the Tina Young collection. They don't have my favorite formula of eyeshadows, but I like to keep this on hand in case I ever need it. And then I have from Wet n Wild's their Lilo and Stitch collection. I did do a full review on this if you're curious and you want to see any more info on it. And then back here in the back, I just keep this one back here because it's a little larger from Profusion. This is the Sienna's palette. It's a really nice formula. I think they have a great overlooked formula, and I love that they have the clear packaging as well. All right, so that's everything for this row. I'm going to move you guys over here now, and we'll go into my Urban Decay palettes. So the first one is the Naked Ultra Violet palette. And then we have the original Naked with the velvet. And then we have the Naked 2 palette. This was actually the first high-end eyeshadow palette I ever purchased. So loved. And then I do have the Naked Wild West palette. And then we have the Naked Honey. This one is great for fall. And then I still have this one in the packaging. I don't know why, but this is the Naked 3 palette. They sent this one to me in PR, and I was like, oh, I should add it to my collection, but I haven't used it yet. And then I also have their Stoned palettes, the Stone Vibe palettes. This packaging is just so, so beautiful, and actually the formula is really special in this one. I do like it a lot. Newest Urban Decay palette, this is the She-Hulk. I really liked this one. I know it's kind of getting some mixed reviews, but I thought it was a really nice palette. And then moving on to this row down here, I have some of my Dominique Cosmetics palettes. So this one is the Latte palette. And then I also have the Celestial Storm. I hate how large these palettes are. I mean, I don't mind the size of them. I just wish they weren't so long because they're hard to store. And then I also have the Rustic Glam palette from her as well. And then I do have this palette from Stilazzi. This is the Jordan Liberty palette. I really liked this formula and this brand, but I don't think they're around anymore. So stay tuned for a declutter. I'm sure that's happening soon. As you can tell, I have a lot of palettes I probably need to get rid of. This is the Picante palette from Carity, another great option for fall. And then I have my Desert Oasis palette from BH Cosmetics. They are, you know, kind of revamping now, so I'm not sure. I haven't tried their new formula, but this is a palette that I loved for so long. It's definitely well used in my collection. And then here in the back, I do have the Michaela Glamlight palette. This was the first one that they did. I really like the formula from Glamlight. I think it's great, and I really enjoyed this eyeshadow palette. I ended up opting out of the second palette just because I feel like I didn't need it, but I did really enjoy this one. All right, next, moving into this row over here, I do have all of my Huda Beauty palettes right here. So I have the Mercury Retrograde. You guys know how much I love this palette. I talk about it nonstop. It's one of my favorites in my collection. Right behind that, I do have the Naughty palette. Again, really great for fall. I think this one is beautiful. And then I have the Rose Quartz. This was probably my favorite palette from last year. I got a ton of use out of it. I think it's a really great formula as well. And we have the OG right here. This is the Desert Dusk. I've had this palette for so long, but it's so beautiful still. And then this is her most recent larger palette. This is the Empowered palette, and I've really been loving on this one. I've been getting a lot of use out of it. This is actually the only palette that I have from Fenty. This is the Galaxy palette, and it's not my favorite formula, but honestly I keep it because I think the packaging is so pretty. Back here in the back, I have a couple of palettes from Buxom. This one is their White Russian eyeshadow palette. I know this one also got mixed reactions, but I do really enjoy it. And then I also have the Buxom Tiki Bar palette as well. From Too Faced, I have their Too Femme palette. Palette I've had for so long, but it's so special. I feel like these shimmers in here are absolutely stunning. This is the Skinny Dip palette from Jouer. And then I have a bunch of other drugstore palettes back there. So I have the Profusion Nude Eyes palette. This one is from Lottie London, and I actually think they have a nice formula, but this is the Shadow Snatch palette. The vibes on this one kind of reminds me of like an Urban Decay Naked palette. And then I have 3 different ones of these color block palettes from Rimmel London. Again, a really nice formula from the drugstore. That is everything for this first drawer here. So we'll go ahead and close that one, and then we'll move on to my second eyeshadow drawer. Moving into the second drawer, this one's a little more busy. It has a lot more of like my mini palettes. So this is actually a clear organizer case from Sunny Cosmetics. It's actually meant for like compacts, but it works perfectly for like mini little eyeshadow palettes. So I'm gonna just go through these because there's a lot going on up here. Up first, I have all of my Huda Beauty right here in the front. So these are like all of her little mini palettes. So the first one here is the Purple Haze palette. And then another purple palette from her, I have the Lilac palette. Next, I have the Sand Haze palette. And then another one of the pastels. This one was the mint one, which I feel like was so fun. And then the last of the pastel ones I have, this is the Pastel Rose palette. And I have another one of the haze palettes. This was the Khaki Haze. I do have a couple of her neon palettes. So this one was the Neon Green. And then I also had the Neon Pink palette as well. I forgot I also had the Neon Orange. So I also have that one. And then these were the color block palettes that she came out with, similar to the neon one. So I had the orange one here, and then I also had the green one here as well. So here is the Nude Light Palette. I ended up decluttering the medium and the dark, and I just kept the light palette, but this is a really pretty one. I was a big fan of this Wild collection that she came out with. I loved all of the palettes. So we had the Wild Python. Next we had the Chameleon. I just thought these were so pretty, and I loved the different like textures and finishes these had to them. Here is the Wild Tiger one. And then this one was my favorite out of the 4 of them. This was the Jaguar palette. The next one I have is the Toffee Brown palette here. This is one of her more recent ones. I have the Love Fest palette. And then these ones are like the OGs because these are the cardboard packaging, but we have the Amethyst Obsession palette, Ruby Obsession palette. I have the Topaz Obsession palette. I have the Coral Obsession palette. And then this is one of my favorite palettes, the ones that I started loving from Huda. This is the Smoky palette. That is all of my Huda here in the front, and now they're kind of just like miscellaneous, so I'll just kind of run through them. I have a bunch of these little mini ones from Lorac. I loved this collection. I thought it was amazing. So they're just a bunch of little mini eyeshadow palettes from them, and when I say mini, like they're very mini. This was the one in collaboration with Rachel Zoe, so she had quite a few of these different ones. I don't think they're available anymore, but these were, like I said, such great little palettes. I used them a lot, especially for like holidays. They had some really fun little glitters in them, and then they also came out with the sparkling palette, and this is a cute little mini one as well. Here are some of my clear palettes. So I have this little mini one from e.l.f. This was the purple palette. This one was in the Akayu shade. And then I do have a mini here from Natasha Denona. This was her holiday release last year. This was the mini Metropolis palette. I really did like this one a lot. And then I also have this little one here from the brand Catrice. I think it's supposed to be a dupe for like these Natasha palettes, but this one is the mini eyeshadow palette. What's this called? The Golden Nude palette. So I really think this was supposed to be a dupe for her nude palette. I liked the formula, but it wasn't like an absolute favorite of mine. I do have a couple of palettes here from Kaleidos. They're actually one of my favorite eyeshadow brands. I absolutely loved this smoky collection that they did. I thought it was stunning. So here is the Cold Brew palette. And then I forget the names on these because they don't have them on there, but it was like the Cold Brew. And then, gosh, I'm drawing a blank, but these palettes are really great from them. If you can get your hands on them, the formula is really nice. This is actually my only palette that I have from Viseart, but this is the Paris Edit palette. I think this little guy is so cute. I love the color story. It has like a little mirror on it as well. And then I have quite a few palettes here from Nars. I'll show you guys. These was, I think, last year's collection from them. This was the Orgasm X collection, and these are just some of their little like holiday palettes that they did. Just cute little mini palettes. I love mini makeup. I think it's so cute. And then this one here was the Summer Solstice palette. And then this one here is the Inhibited palette from Nars as well. And then I also have the Climax palette. I think this one was last year's holiday as well. This one was really nice. I liked the greens in it a lot. This one is so cute. It's a little mini palette. This is from House of Sillage. And then I have a few from Charlotte Tilbury. This one was her, I think it's like Day to Night palette, I think it was called, or something like that. This one has in it just like her basic shades. It might be called Pillow Talk, honestly. But yeah, it's a really nice little palette. And then I also have the Vintage Vamp palette here as well. This one has 4 different shades. This is the only Pat McGrath palette I actually own, but this one has some of her shimmers in it. I think I got this one like on clearance or something like that, but it is really pretty. And then I do have a couple of these little mini palettes. These are from the brand Juno & Co. Look at this blue one. It's really fun. And then here's a couple more Orgasm palettes from Nars. This one has 4 different eyeshadows. And then this one was the other one that they had in that collection. From Lottie London, this is the Rose Goals palette, kind of similar to the Huda. I think they were trying to like dupe it maybe a little. Palette I love so much. This is the Naked 3 from Urban Decay. I use this so much. I think it's just such a cute little palette. Perfect everyday palette for me. KKW, this was the Mrs. West palette. I know this is kind of like, you know, not a thing anymore, but this one's just like a nice neutral everyday palette. Then I have a few here from the I Heart Revolution brand. These ones are just cute. I had to buy them, but this is the Avocado palette, and then I have this little watermelon one as well. These are just kind of fun to have. I wish Wet n Wild would make more of these because I think they're such a good formula, but this one is the Boo Crew. This came out like holiday time. This one here, and then I also have the Coffin palette as well. Again, this one was a Halloween release from them. These ones with the clear packaging, I swear, are such a good formula from them. Another one that I have, this is the color Icon, and this one is in the Call Me Sunshine. Again, this formula is just so good in these. And then I have this Dear Dahlia palette. This one is a Korean beauty brand. It's a nice little neutral palette. And then I have a few others from Urban Decay. This one was the On the Run collection. I think there was a few palettes to this, but this is the G-Train, and it has some nice greens in there. And then they also just came out with these not too long ago. This is the Naked Half Baked palette. I really enjoyed this one. I thought the formula was really nice in here. And like I said, I really enjoy these little mini palettes. I think they're great. So that is everything in this first little bin right here. I'm going to move you guys over and we're going to go into this second section down here. This one has just a few of those little dividers again. So up here, first in the front, I have some of my Dose of Colors eyeshadows. I love these. These are like kind of bring me back too, because I feel like this is when like mini eyeshadow palettes started to come out and started to like really become popular. But this one is the Marvelous Mauves. I also have the Blushings Berry palettes. And this is probably my favorite one, but this is the Baked Browns, just because I love brown smoky eyes. And then next I have a few from Too Faced. I love these little palettes. I think they're great. These were a part of their Tutti Frutti line. I really love this one because I love this green shade in here. I think it's really unique and fun. This was the Sparkling Pineapple. I think this one is called the Razzle Dazzle palette. Again, really pretty. They have these really nice like cream formulas in here too. They're really pretty on the eyes. And then I have a few of these artist palettes. These are from Koki Cosmetics. This one is the Utopia palette. And then I also have the Peachy Queen palette from them as well. And then right back here, I keep some other palettes just kind of on their own. So I have a bunch here from Kaleidos. I think that they have one of my favorite, like I said, eyeshadow formulas. So this one here, I always have a hard time with these because they have like really long names, but the Futuristic, I think volume 6 is this one. It has some beautiful purple shades in there. And then I have this one as well. I don't think I've used this one. What the heck? I need to use this one. It's beautiful. And then this was the volume 7 palette. And I also have the volume 5 palette as well. This one has that really pretty blue shade in there. And then also down there, I just have some of these blocks from Maybelline. These are the shadow blocks. These are interesting. They're okay. I mean, I feel like I loved the look that I did when I tried them out. I just feel like they're kind of, I don't know, just like not, you know, the most pigmented eyeshadows, but they're kind of a cool concept. And then I also have some of my larger Kaleidos palettes back there. This one was the Club Nebula palette, which was a collaboration with Angelica Nikovist. And then I also have the Escape Pod palette from them as well. This one was kind of fun. This is from the brand Nasta, and it's the Swatch Me palette. This one's like a face and eye palette, but it's like a little VCR tape. Here's what that looks like. It has some creams as well as some shadows in here. And then I always keep this one because, again, the packaging is so cute on it. This is the Pretty Rich palette from Too Faced. Moving you over to the next section. Back here, I actually have all of my Anastasia palettes. I just have them kind of sideways because it's hard to fit that many this way. But I used to collect them, so I have quite a few, but I honestly haven't bought a Anastasia palette in a while. This one here, oh my gosh, what was this even called? The Self-Made palette is what I have right here. I used to use these so much. I feel like they look really beat up. Let me know if you agree, but I feel like once the Riviere palette came out, it was kind of like downhill from there, honestly, but this is probably my least used Anastasia palette. I do have the Norvina palette right here. This one is beautiful. This one is my favorite ABH. This is the Sultry palette. Good old Modern Renaissance. This one is the one that I took on my honeymoon with me, and I used so much of it. You can tell I hit pan on a shade. And then I also have the Soft Glam palette from them as well. And then I think this might have been the last one I purchased from them. This was the Carly Bible collection. So that's all my ABH back there, and then we'll move into this little organizer here. I do have here one from Too Faced in the front. This is the Teddy Bear palette. Maybelline, I have the Nudes of New York eyeshadow palette. From The Balm, this is their Day to Night palette, and these were kind of fun because they're in like these little tins, and they were all like car themed. So here is what the inside of that one looked like. The brand Sleek Makeup, I have here their Divine palette. I got to do a collaboration with them, which was really fun. So this is the palette I got to use in that video. I really like this brand. I feel like it gets overlooked a lot, but this is Joa, and this is their Birthday Suit palette. I think they have a really nice eyeshadow formula. From Essence, I have their Spice Up My Life eyeshadow palette. This one is cute because it has like two sides to it, so you have two different palettes in here. This is the Physicians Formula Breakfast Club palette. I really did enjoy this. I thought the formula was really great on it. I broke a shade, so I'm not going to open it, but if you want to see, I have a video on this collection if you're curious. And then I have all of my Too Faced palettes back here. So I have the Pumpkin Spice palette. And then I have the Gingerbread Extra Spicy, and then the Gingerbread Spice. And then this is their most recent one. This is the Pumpkin Spice palette. I was kind of bummed this didn't come in a tin, just because I feel like I love like the nostalgia of all the other ones in the tins, and I was kind of sad this one didn't come in one, but here is the latest one. And then I have this palette here from Lorac. I love cool tones, so this one is beautiful to me. I love it. And then from KKW, I did get the Mario palette. This one was a really nice formula. I haven't reached for it in a while though. So that is everything in this section, and I'm going to move over to the last section over here, which is another one of those clear bins. And this one has just, again, a bunch of my little mini palettes in it. So here in the front, I have the Tartelette Toasted. This is just one of my favorite fall palettes. I think the formula on here just never gets old. It's a really great palette. And then I also have the In Bloom. This was one of my first like high-end purchases right behind the Urban Decay palette. Look at how much I used out of this shade. One of my favorite eyeshadow formulas, again, is from Persona. They have a really great formula. This is the Identity Palette. This is like the original in the regular packaging. And then they came out with the Identity 2, which is this one here. I hope they come out with a new eyeshadow palette soon. It's been a while since they released this one. And then this is just the regular Identity Palette, just in their new packaging, which is just this clear packaging. I just still kept my old one because this one I love so much, and I still think it's kind of cute with the packaging. And then I have from Makeup by Mario, this is the Matte Palette. You guys told me I needed this. I do use it, but it's, I don't know, it's nothing special in my opinion. And then I have a few from Juvia's Place. This is the Nubian palette right here, which is a little mini. And then I also have the Taupes palette, which I really love from them. The Creme Shop, this is the Mini Mouse palette. This is really nice. Like the Creme Shop has a really good eyeshadow formula. This is the Desert Lightning palette from MAC. I just thought this collection was really well done, and I love the packaging. I love the cool tones. I've held on to this for a long time. I have the Alternative Rock palette from The Balm. I know they came out with 2 of these. I think this is the only one I kept though. And this one's really cool. This is from Base Blue. It's like this palette, but it's actual art. It's a really cool concept. From Flower Beauty, I do have this little mini quad. This is the Petal Play palette. And then I do have a few of these from Pixie Beauty. I think these are actually one's an eyeshadow palette, one's a face palette. I'll have to move that over to my face palette drawer, but here is the eyeshadow palette. From Nars, I have their Summer Unrated palette. I have a few here from Ofra. This was the Samantha March collaboration that she did. And then I also have one of their other palettes here. This is like a face and eye palette. It's newer to me. This is the Gold Coast palette from The Balm. I did a review on this. It wasn't my favorite collection from them. And this is from the indie brand What's Up. This is actually a really nice little palette from them. This one is called the Kaleidos, I think, palette. Glam Light, I have here the Frosted Flakes. I love blues, so this color story really spoke to me. From Kogi Cosmetics, I do have here their Pure Magic palette. I have these 2 from La Rock. Again, I really like their formula. I think it's very overlooked, but this is the Sorel, and then I also have the Noir, which is one I love because it has all those really nice deep cranberry type of shades. And I've never used this one, but I keep it because I feel like it would be fun to do for if I ever want like a neon look, but this is from Suva Beauty. I have here another palette from Florence by Mills. This is the UBU palette. And here's another one from Base Blue. This one was really cute. They did it for Mother's Day. From Winky Lux, I have their Latte Kitten palette right here. And then behind that, I have the Meat Matchmaker palette from The Balm, an oldie but a goodie. Speaking of an oldie, I have the Soft and Sultry palette from Milani. Remember when everyone was trying to get their hands on this one? I feel like it was really popular for them. Their Winky Lux palette, this one was the La Fruta palette. And then I have this little donut palette from I Love Revolution. It's really cute. I love the blues in here. Today, this formula in here is so good from Urban Decay. This is the Kristen Leanne palette. I loved this palette. The shimmers in here, you guys, are so beautiful. I know it's like weird and people weren't crazy about it, but I just really enjoyed this palette. I've held on to it for this long. And then this is a Makeup Obsession palette. You can find them, I think, at Target, but here are the colors in there. Here I have some from Complex Culture. They actually have a nice formula as well. They have 2 different eyeshadow palettes they have from them. And I have a few more from Alter Ego. So this one is the Aurora palette. I think this is supposed to be a Natasha Denona dupe. I think the Sunrise palette that's supposed to be a dupe for. And then I also have the Goddess palette, which is supposed to be a dupe for the Gold palette from her. I have the Flower Beauty Charlie's Angel palette, and then as well as the Nightingale palette. This is from Pretty Vulgar. I got this in a BoxyCharm, and I really like this eyeshadow palette. It's a nice little like everyday type of palette for me. And then this one is kind of fun. It's a little cheeseburger. This is from the I Heart Revolution brand, and it's kind of just a fun little palette to have. Also like so satisfying because it's squishy. And then the last palettes I have here are just from Ofra. I have their Glitch palette right here from them, as well as a bunch of these little signature palettes from them. So this one here is the Galaxy. I think this is the green one. The Galaxy is the purple one, my mistake. Here is the Beachside. This one's fun because it has that yellow. This was the green one. This one is the Empowered palette. And then the last one I have here is the Sweet Dreams palette. And this one's kind of just a neutral, if I can get it open. Here is that one. And that is all for this drawer, which is the end of my eyeshadow palette collection. video. Oh my gosh, I feel like that took me so long, but hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. I know it's been my most requested for my makeup collection videos. Let me know down below if you saw one of your favorite palettes in here or what your favorite palette is. Stay tuned because I'll be continuing this collection, probably do like my complexion up next, so stay tuned for that. Thank you as always for watching, and I'll see you very soon with a brand new video. Bye friends!